I don't like having to work on things more than I have to. Here's my engine. Today's gonna be all about stereotypes. Middle-aged, possibly balding old men that are either in a club and or wearing a gold chain. Inside, it has a series of trap doors. So what happens is the most profoundly beautiful sculpture of obscenities I've ever heard in my life. You can just park your C4 Corvette somewhere and look at the stars with your date. What's up, people? Today we are back with my C4 Corvette race car. Now, first thing about it is C4 Corvettes have a stereotype. And let's be honest, stereotypes exist for a reason. And generally that stereotype are middle-aged, possibly balding old men that are either in a club and or wearing a gold chain, possibly a tank top, cruising really slow with their automatic transmission. Because they once had a 70s Trans Am that was a ragged out piece of crap, and now they can finally afford something better. And basically this just ended up becoming the new redneck Ferrari when the Smoking the Bandit Trans Am ended up being way too slow because it was way back in the days of emissions. And that's about it, right? Because they're super cheap and nobody wants them, because now we've had the Corvette C5, the C6, the C7, and now the C8, which is no longer available in a stick-shift transmission and is mid-engine. Oh my God, it's better than a Ferrari. Not really, actually, and they end up costing a lot of money. So they're really, really, really cheap. And now that I've calmed down and I'm not actually on cocaine or caffeine, I just really drive me nuts with car stereotypes. This is my Corvette C4 and I have it for good reason. They are an awesome car and the best value out there as a race car. This actually was an 80s car and then it got wrecked and then they put more of the 90s body on and painted it like a Grand Sport. So not an original numbers Grand Sport Corvette, but I like it better because I'm not going to pay for a serial number that I don't care about anyway. Now, one thing I really like about C4 Corvettes, I'll show you, is they've got a really strong hood and windshield, and if you're on a date, you can just park your C4 Corvette somewhere and look at the stars with your date. It is perfect. That is old school American fun. I mean, I'd like to see you go do that on some stupid car with a steel hood. Oh, fancy pants. But let's get down to business. That was a pretty good, that was a pretty good cold opening. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna race this sucker. Now, I got this thing for 10 grand. Let's open up the engine bay and check out the mighty engine. Yes. And this is my zero emissions Corvette. It is exactly the Corvette everybody on the left coast likes the most. I'm sorry, the stereotypes on the left coast. Today's gonna be all about stereotypes. I'm just gonna say it because it's true. Anyway, I need to calm down. Calm down, Casey. Just get with the program. So, race car. Still got a title. I really dig that, so I can drive it on the street if I need to get around or test it. But as you can see, right now it's set up. Not street legal for the people that are thinking it and want to comment. It's got the slick tires on it. It's got big brakes. It's got a lot of great suspension components, everything. The engine is out because when I bought it, it had low oil pressure. Okay, great build engine, but there was something I just didn't feel confident. I didn't think it was going to work, even though I think the other guy said he had luck with it. But everything told me it was not the way to go. So today I wanted to give you guys an example of what I did with the engine. We're going to kind of go over the engine, what I had to think of, why I did it, because I'm going to be putting this in. And this year, I'm really excited. I'm going to actually race with NASA. That's the NASA. It's a national group of racing. I'm going to run with the Great Lakes region. So I would suggest you guys, if you want to come out, try your hand at your first track day, get your racing license, or come out and go road racing. Come hang out, let's race at the NASA Great Lakes regions. So gonna run this. I'm actually not sure what class it goes in yet, but I know it works. So one of the fun things about going racing with it, we're actually gonna put it on a chassis dyno and we're gonna weigh it. We're gonna find out the exact power weight ratio so we can classify it. And I'm really excited about that because it should be some good grassroots racing. But the thing I like most about NASA, they have an unlimited class, which means I can build whatever I want, such as the Jabberwock powered by the V10 coming up. So tell you what, let's go over here and check out the engine. I just got it back from my engine builder, and I'm gonna give a shout out to him. It's Dennis Level Performance in Fremont, Ohio. In fact, they were the ones that redid the engine for the Genius Garage Yellow Corvette, and we have, handed out people's asses on the winner's circle at Indianapolis and Mid-Ohio with it for people with lots more money and hundreds of more horsepower. Mostly because we're tenacious and fight and smart, but also because we had a really good engine with no DNFs. And Dennis, I don't care if whatever, this is true. The other thing I love about Level Performance and Dennis Level, other than them being able to make good engines, is I have never met anyone in my entire life who can string together the most profoundly beautiful sculpture of obscenities I've ever heard in my life. It's a thing of beauty, and I enjoy speaking to him at all times. I'm actually not being facetious. It's great. So here's my engine. And it was having low oil pressure, but I think it was well built. So I told him, and he was real busy, had a lot of things going on. And so it was nice to get it in. The thing I hated about it is whoever built it, I don't know what on earth they were thinking, had a stock oil pan on it. That's stupid. It's a wet sump, so the oil stays down in here. Now they modified it. They put this dumb little splash thing in it. So the oil stays in here. But the problem is when you're cornering on the road, on a road track, if you're any good, your oil's sloshing around from your pickup, and you probably will lose oil pressure when it does that. Now, when that happens, come on over here to the car. I'm going to show you something. This car actually has an Accusump. You can see the pickup here. There's one oil line here that goes to the pressure side of it, and of course it's got an oil cooler. But if you look inside, he's going around to the other side. Here it is. This is an Accusump. It's basically an accumulator for the oil. So you open that up, and there's a piston in here, and it's full of high pressure air or nitrogen. And when you pressurize your oiling system, oil will pump in here, and it'll hold the capacity of oil, and the air pressure here will push against it at the pressure. So what happens is, if your oil sloshes and you lose pickup and you lose oil pressure from the pump, then the pressure here will force the oil into the engine, and you'll have a couple of quart capacity, so you never lose oil pressure when you're going. And then of course if it squishes the oil into the car, then when it can start picking up oil and pump it back in, it'll nominalize and go back. So it's a nice, shall we say, band-aid for that problem, so you don't have to go to like a full cyclotic dry sump setup. I hate full cyclotic dry sump setups because I don't like having to work on things more than I have to. And you know, dry sumps are great, but they're also a pain in the butt. So for this car, my car, and I don't want to work on it, wet sump's just fine. So I'm going to raise this thing up because I want you guys to see something. And I figure the internet will think it is fun to watch me have an engine in the air and wonder if it's about to break off and crush my feet or something like that. Because let's face it, the world, the internet, and all of media just wants to see bad things. And poke the bear. Poke, poke, poke the bear. Don't bounce, darn it. Okay. Casey has had too much coffee today. Actually, I don't think I had much coffee today. All right, come on down. Let's get down low here and look at this together. All right, so this oil pan here, if you notice, has got this big, we'll call it a kick out. It's a larger capacity area for oil. So this holds 7 quarts and it comes out to the sides. Now the other thing, and I'm going to turn this around so you can see it, kicks out to the other side as well. It holds more oil, but stays relatively low profile. The other thing about this pan, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to show it to you, inside it has a series of trap doors. So for instance, right about this area going this way, there's a trap door that goes this way, not as much that way. And then there's another trap door here that does the same thing. And what it does is those trap doors have like a box around the oil pump and pickup, so that when you're cornering, if the oil wants to all slosh to the left side of the car, it won't let it. This one will stop it from going over here more, but the oil that's here will slosh toward the pump. So basically with all the trap doors funneling toward the pump, when you're driving around, it's basically making the oil end up there. And you are much less likely to have all your oil sloshing away and losing pickup. So the thing about this was a couple of things. Had low oil pressure. It was only getting up to like 35, 38 PSI, which is not good enough. Now, for all of those of you who know how American pushrod engine works, especially a small block Chevy derivative, this is your distributor, and inside there is the rotor, which mechanically directs the spark to each cylinder with the coil or high voltage coming in the middle. Now, it has to spin somehow. Reason being is the camshaft, which is right here, that goes all the way up to the front, and behind this, which is the water pump, is driven by a chain in this cover off of the crank. So the camshaft spins slower than the crank, obviously, because it's 4-stroke. But, so this camshaft is spinning. On the camshafts are a series of gears. Those gears turn gears on the distributor to make it spin to do what it needs to do. But the other thing the distributor in the shaft does, it goes down and it drives the oil pump. Okay? So for instance, when I go to start this motor up for the first time, I'm actually going to take the distributor out. I'll put a stick down in it. I got a stick on a drill with a little receptacle that goes on the oil pump, and I'll spin it with oil in it, and that will pump oil to the engine and prime it. So when I go to first start up, I'm going to have oil pressure right away, and all the bearings are already lubricated rather than doing it dry. But the other thing about this is, when the distributor goes down in, it has a series of rings that have to fit into places properly because the oil will flow through it. Well, this had to be machined down a little bit because it was at the wrong height inside of there, and oil coming through a channel was leaking out past. So a lot of the oil pressure that was being created by the pump that was originally in here was basically like there was a wide open thing. It was a big leak in the hose, so to speak, because the distributor was not positioned correctly. The other thing we did was, and I'll show you the parts because this is kind of dumb. Here are the old parts from the engine. Oh God, I didn't think it was gonna be a heavy burn. Okay. Here's the plate that goes on the back that holds the bell housing. Hooray. Here's, oh, this is the inside. This is the old slosh thing that presumably was on the bottom of the motor in this old pan right there. Kind of the windage tray. Stupid. That one's kind of junk. Okay, here's my dipstick. Oh, that's nifty. It moves. I'm glad he got a dipstick. I was afraid they forgot. Here's my old dipstick. Here is the oil pump that was in the car originally. This is a small block size one, and as you can see, this is where it bolted on, and it has to be sealed because this is where the high pressure oil gets pumped into the motor. And then this right here, this shaft is what drives it. So the stick that comes down from the distributor will spin this, and there's two gears in here that work much like a Roots supercharger on a car, spins and of course sucks the oil from the pickup, which has a screen, high pressure, forces it up there. Now I'm gonna look into my toolbox, which is hugely unorganized and mistreated because I've allowed Genius grad students to use it the last 5, 7, 8 years. Not knocking them, I'm just saying that's what kind of happens to your tools when you share them with people so they can learn. Yeah, okay, that part's long gone, I'm gonna find it. Anyway, to prime it, I'll take the distributor out, stick something down there, and I can spin it, pump the oil into the engine. Now this one, I'm gonna kill my phone, hold on. This one, the person that had it welded this on, which, you know, is kind of a racing thing to do, but you can also see where this was filed, which Dennis pointed out was probably because it had been welded on one time before and then filed off and then re-welded. He's like, what's this cockamamie, and had things to say. It was hilarious. We actually put on, instead of a high volume pump or aftermarket one, he has a way to modify it and actually put in a big block oil pump. Reasoning being is with what we're doing and forcing it a little harder, we're going to be able to get the pressure we need. Now, there's a balance about oil in all engines, and I know everybody's going to have an opinion on this right now. First thing, there's an appropriate bearing clearance to have if you don't want to preheat an engine to get your clearances or preheat the oil. Oil is going to heat up and it's going to thin out, and it needs to be able to flow through bearings and cushion enough. You have to have pressure to get to cushion, but then also there's the grade of the oil. So if you have a massive oil pump forcing way more oil pressure than you need, all you're doing is wasting horsepower and creating heat. That's it. You only need so much oil pressure. So if your pump can't do it, obviously you need to uprate the pump to do it, assuming your bearing clearances are correct. In this circumstance with this engine, the bearing clearances were actually good. All the journals and everything are nice. They checked all that. So the trouble was the oil pump just wasn't cutting the mustard, and the distributor height was not right, and it was allowing oil to go by and losing pressure there. So that's why, those are things that I could have done, but that's the reason why I go to an engine builder, because that's all they do, is like race engines and Chevy race engines for sprint cars and stuff. And he was able to see that and diagnose it real quick and then set it up. So for me, it was worth the time to have their expertise to do it in that regard. So I'm pretty excited here. Another note regarding oil on a car. People like to run thicker oil than they need a lot of the time because they think it's better, it's going to cushion things. If you run way thicker oil than you need, it's not going to be able to flow through as fast. And you can theoretically run too thick an oil and then things will overheat and go bad because of that. So in a manner of speaking, you want to run the thinnest oil you can get away with and still get the pressure you need. Obviously, there's drawbacks to that, like it drains out quicker and doesn't cushion as well in startup and stuff, but you know, those are things you got to weigh. And also, new oils don't have the zinc content they did way back in the day when we had like flat tappet camshafts, but that's a separate thing, and I don't want to tell you the tips to get beyond that because the EPA will probably try to kill me or something. So that's something. The other thing cool about this car, I'll just show you here, and I haven't even seen it because they took it apart. This one has a twin disc clutch, so it can hold more power. Here you can see what's going on. Motorcycles have multi-disc clutch. This is twin disc. Here's the pressure plate. It says bottom. Why does it say bottom? There's no bottom. Okay. There's your first friction disc. Here's the here's your other driven disc in the middle. I'll have to figure out how that goes back together. And you got your next one, top, and then you got your flywheel. That's a nice light flywheel. Look at that. Cool. So next episode, I'll put that stuff together and get it back in the car, get it set up. Really looking forward to going running NASA. My plan is to go to the race at Mid-Ohio with the Great Lakes region, I think the 3rd weekend of April. It should be a lot of fun. I'm hoping to get my wife to come along for me. And in HTPD 3 and 4, if they check you out, they actually let you take somebody for a ride. So it'll be the first time I get to take my wife for a ride around a racetrack in my nasty Corvette. I should be fun, or she'll kill me. One of the two. Either way, you guys should subscribe because I look forward to see you next time. Cool thing happening right now at the Packard American Motor Company. They're debuting their very first watch. This is the 1899 Model A. It's a mechanical automatic movement with a beautiful stainless steel case. All the parts are made in Switzerland and it's assembled right here in the United States. If you happen to have a Packard, you can get your serial number engraved right on it, but you guys need to go to packardamerica.us. This particular watch is mine. I'm looking very forward to wearing it more. It's frankly very comfortable and one of the best watches I've ever had. But this one's mine, not yours. You can't have it. Get your own. packardamerica.us.